Hi everyone, a huge welcome to Steve's Kitchen. This week is all about baking cakes, and I'm going to share with you a recipe that is fail-safe. Everyone should have this recipe in their arsenal because it is so simple to remember and very versatile. You can make red velvet cakes, lemon drizzle cakes, birthday cakes, almost anything. It's a lovely moist cake as well. So I'm going to teach that to you today, and then we're going to have some fun all this week making different types of cakes using this recipe. Come on, let me show you how. Now, traditional sponge cakes are often called pound cakes as well, and that's because the old bakers would use a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, a pound of flour, and a pound by weight of eggs, so equal quantities, and it made a perfect sponge cake. Obviously, today I'm making a smaller recipe. I've got 3.5 ounces, 100 grams of butter, the same of sugar, the same of flour, and the same of eggs. Now, I'm using self-raising flour, and I'll explain that to you in a minute, but it is really this simple. We are just going to take our sugar into the processor, our butter, our self-raising flour. Now, if you haven't got self-raising flour, I'll explain to you in a minute. And I'm taking 2 eggs, which I happen to know works out about 100 grams or 3.5 ounces. Now, even though I'm using self-raising flour, I'm going to add a teaspoon of baking powder in here. If you haven't got self-raising flour, you could add 2 teaspoons of baking powder into all-purpose flour. Now, let's get this on the processor. Now, here's where things get crazy quick because we're just going to blend this for about 10 seconds. Actually, I'm only going to do 5 seconds. Take a spatula and just quickly knock any of the flour down that's come up, and then we're just going to do another 5 seconds or so just to bring that batter together. We don't need to overmix this. When you take the lid off now, you will have a lovely smooth cake batter, which is just as good as anything you could buy in the shops. Now, here's another tip. The oven temperature doesn't want to be too hot. We're going to be putting it on at 170 degrees Celsius, that's 325 Fahrenheit. And that temperature is pretty important because if it cooks too quickly, you end up with a very domed top. Now, I've got a little bit of softened butter. I've got an 8-inch tin here, which I'm just going to grease the inside. So I've greased the bottom and the sides of this cake tin. I'm going to pop a little flour in there now and just bang it around to get a coating of flour. So you want a light dusting of flour like that. Now, I'm using a high-sided tin. That isn't necessary. Quite often I use a lower-sided tin, and you may well do as well. Just what I have today is this tin. Now, just going to take that cake batter and pop it into our tin. And then I'm just going to use a fork to evenly distribute this across the bottom of the pan. Now, the batter is not very deep in the tin, and that is perfect. Now, one of the reasons we have that temperature at 170 rather than any higher is because if you heat the sides of this tin too quick, it'll sear the edge of the cake, which will stop the side of the cake from expanding, and then you'll have a big domed cake, and we don't want that. Now, that cake batter is going in my oven for 25 to 30 minutes. We don't want to open the door, at least for the first 25 minutes, and you're going to have a lovely golden top come on this. And if you're not certain towards the end, you can always stick a skewer in there to see if it's cooked, but 30 minutes, it's going to be cooked. Now look at that, that's just come out of the oven. It's a beautiful golden brown. I need to leave that now for about 10 minutes, and that will just start to cool down and shrink away from the sides before we tip this out. Now, if you want to test it, you can just push in the middle and it should spring back like a sponge. Now that sponge has cooled down here on the side. Come and have a look at this. You'll get a perfect sponge. I'm just going to slide it onto the board here. I want to cut this one open so you can see exactly what you're getting. We should have a wonderfully aerated sponge cake. Now, the versatility of this cake is immense because a lot of people will put vanilla in here, and I like the taste of butter, flour, sugar and eggs when they're baked like this. And sometimes people will say, that's a wonderful sponge cake, Stephen. What's in it? Well, it's not what's in it, it's what's left out of it. It's pure and very simple, very versatile. Now, please give this one a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and stay tuned because we've got some real fun going to happen with this cake mixture, and I'll show you the versatility of it over the next few days. See you then. Take care. Now, I'm just trying that as well. It's a lovely moist cake. It's a wonderful recipe. So thanks for joining me today. Please comment down below. I'll leave a couple of links to some other videos. Be good, and I'll see you very shortly. Take care.